I just had to make this video because the recipe is so damn delicious. This drink is so tasty, everything is just perfect, and it's so easy to make. I've been looking for a way to recreate the Nitro Cold Brew from Starbucks for so long. I had my first sip of a Nitro Cold Brew a couple years ago and I was fascinated. My head was blown away. It was creamy, it was smooth, but it had no milk or cream in it. It was bubbly, but the texture was not like a carbonated drink. What is this creation? It's so good. This drink is essentially a cold brew that's been infused or charged with nitrogen gas to give it that rich and creamy head of foam, just like a draft beer. This drink is awesome for people who can't drink dairy because it gives you that same mouthfeel of creaminess and texture that you would get with any milk, cream, or dairy product. Or this drink can be really good if you like your coffee black and you don't want to add any milk but still want that creaminess in your coffee. So last year I was looking at ways on how to recreate this Nitro Cold Brew. I was looking into getting a cream whipper canister, but then people said that you can't really use carbon dioxide because the bubbles would be bigger than nitrogen, and that wouldn't result in the same type of mouthfeel you would get. So then I was looking at nitrogen chargers, and they were a lot more expensive than CO2. And even after that, people said that you needed to get a stout nozzle, which is the same type of nozzle you would see at a beer tap, to be able to achieve the same texture, because the size and configuration of that nozzle would basically dictate how the bubbles would settle in the drink after it's poured. These nozzles were not readily available. They were usually custom made for kegs and basically out of the picture. So then I started doing some more searching online, and there's actually people who create these types of Nitro Cold Brew kegs specifically for this drink. They ran a couple $100, and I was like, you know, I'm only gonna be drinking this drink maybe 3 times a week in the summer. Most of the time, I prefer my coffees hot, especially in the winter and sometimes in the summer. So I'm spending all this cash on a keg just to use it 2 or 3 times a week, and this stuff doesn't even last that long. I'm sure the nitrogen bubbles would diffuse out of the drink in a couple of hours, and you would only be able to keep it in the keg for a couple of days max. At this point, all my options were blown. I basically gave up my hopes on recreating this drink and decided that I would occasionally go to Starbucks when I wanted a Nitro Cold Brew. And honestly, their cold brew is not my favorite, and not every Starbucks has a tap with Nitro Cold Brew. So that was also another problem. But now, I finally recently came across this method of recreating this beautiful drink on the internet. This method is so much more simpler than I thought. It's essentially a steamed iced Americano, and it's so good. This drink provides the same mouthfeel as a Nitro Cold Brew, if not even better. It actually doesn't even use nitrogen or cold brew. Well, actually you can argue that air is composed of 78% nitrogen, so you know, you steam a drink and it's basically nitrogen. And for coffee, instead of that stale cold brew you would get, you're using your top-notch espresso that you spent years honing and perfecting and getting the perfect technique. So obviously the flavors are gonna be packing. It's gonna be way more intense than a cold brew, and there's gonna be way more flavor notes. Alright, that's enough of me talking. Let's dive right into the recipe and I will show you how simple this drink is to make.
To make your steamed iced Americano, you first need to prepare your coffee exactly the way you normally would. In this case, I'll be pulling a double espresso shot with 16 grams of coffee. I haven't tried this with any other coffee brewing method other than espresso, but if you do, let me know in the comments below if it works. Personally, I like using medium roasted beans for Americanos, so I still get that unique fruity profile of a light roasted variety without having too much of those deep burnt flavors coming through from a dark roast. It's all personal preference. Now, here's the cool part. Put around 4 ice cubes into a milk pitcher. Next, pour your coffee over the ice and top it up with as much water as you want. Usually, I add around 200 milliliters or so, but do note that there will be more water volume from the ice as it melts, and make sure you leave enough room in the pitcher to steam. Now, steam your iced Americano like you would if you're steaming milk. You can air it a bit more than usual if you want a little bit more air. Just remember, as long as you don't steam for too long, the drink won't get hot because there are still ice cubes in it. I won't cut this clip so you could see the full length of the steaming I do here, but the duration of your steaming will depend on your machine you're using. As you can tell from the rattling sounds, I still have some ice cubes left after steaming. After you steam, grab a glass and slowly pour onto the sides just like a beer to prevent larger bubbles from forming. Optionally, you can pour this through a strainer for a smoother finish if you're feeling like a bartender making an espresso martini. Now sit back, relax, and watch those bubbles cascade like a Guinness.
And there you have it. Nitro Cold Brew, but it's not Nitro or Cold Brew, but it's better than Starbucks. I hope you guys can give this recipe a try. It's honestly so delicious, it's so easy to make, and if you like the content, please subscribe because there's gonna be more on the way. See you next time. Damn!
Only eating his foot.